What is up, y'all? This is Andy with Poster Grind, and today I'm going to show you how to create an awesome swirled melting text bleed in Photoshop. Now, before we get started, you're going to want to head over to texturelabs.org and pick up these exact textures for free. I'll put the exact names of these textures in the description below. So without further ado, let's get going. All right, first thing we're gonna do is type out something cool. Today I'm using a font called Helvetica New, pretty popular. Once you have that done, go ahead and make a copy of your type by hitting Command J. Then go ahead and hit Command E to merge those layers into one layer. Then we're just gonna hide those bottom pieces of type. Now that our type is rasterized, we can modify it with the Smudge tool. So go ahead and click on your Smudge tool, and then from here we're just going to get a little artistic with the drips, going around and dripping and bleeding our type. Then on areas where I want it to bleed into the other layers, I'm just going to hit B on the keyboard to bring up the brush tool, and then painting with black, I'm just going to combine these areas like so, just to make the composition or the artwork a little bit more interesting. Then when you're happy with where you're at, we can go ahead and add a blur to the edges so that it gives it a little bit more of a trippy effect. So I'm just going to go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and there's going to be a slight blur. If you go too much, it's not going to be as effective, but if you just put a little bit in there, let's go with 1.5. Now on that same layer, we're going to convert it to a smart object. So I'm going to go over to the layer, right click, convert to smart object. Now it's time to use our swirl texture and create a displacement so that our type interacts with our swirl. So going up to my texture folder, I'm going to click on this one right here. Then we're going to save this as a displacement Photoshop file by going up to File, Save As. Then we can actually add displace at the end of that file so that we know which file to select when we use the actual displacement. Sounds complicated, but if you follow these instructions, it will all work out. Now I'm going to turn off that layer, go back down to our smart object. On the smart object, we're going to go up to Filter, then we're going to go down to Distort, Displace. And on here I have the horizontal scale set at 3, vertical set at 3, and then I have tile and wraparound checked off. I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to select that displacement file we just created, hit Open, and let it do its thing. And as you can see, if you zoom in, it's interacting with that swirl layer. From here, I'm going to bring that swirl layer down, and then we're going to actually connect this layer so that it only shows up on the type by hitting Option Command G to create a clipping mask. Now, using that same swirl layer, we're going to adjust the blending mode. So we're going to go to our blending modes, and we're going to take this down to exclusion. Then we're going to drop the opacity from 100% down to 10%. Now we're going to use a gradient map adjustment. So we're going to our adjustment layers. Then we're going to go down to gradient map. And then on gradient map, we're going to click over here, bring up our editor. And I already have some that I've already created. So I'm going to use this one right here. Bunch of different colors in it, which is very helpful for this kind of a technique. Then I'm going to hit OK. Then I'm going to our adjustment layers again, and we're going to go to black and white and turn this black and white, as you can see. Now we're going to add a little bit of noise. So holding down the Option button or the Alt on PC, go to New Layer. Then on New Layer, we're just going to name it Noise. And then on Mode, we're going to drop that down to Overlay. And then fill with Overlay Neutral, 50% gray, hit OK. Now we can adjust this layer to include some noise. Now we're going to filter, noise, add noise, and then here you can kind of see if you have too much, it's going to be a little too distracting. So we're just going to drop it down to, we'll just put in 10%, hit OK. Now we're going to go up to our second swirl texture that we haven't used yet. Turn that on. Now we can adjust the blending mode to linear burn. So we're going to go down to linear burn. And then from here, we're going to double click on that layer to bring up our layer styles. Now in layer styles, we're going to adjust our black side of our underlying layer right here. Holding down the Option key, we're going to drag our slider over like so until we get rid of the rest of the layer. Now it's going to interact with our type like that, and then hit OK. From here, we're going to add one more adjustment layer. We're going to go to curves, add that curves adjustment, and then we're just going to increase the contrast so that we have a completely black background. And then we're just going to add some scratch texture, adjusting the blending mode to screen, and we can actually decrease the opacity so it's not too strong. We'll put it at 25%. And like that, we have this really cool swirl typography technique. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.